Welcome to Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter and Tasker. Wags out this week. Again, you want to follow us on socials? You can do it right now at On the Tailgates. I'm at The Real Ritter and at Wisco Bow Hunting for Eric Tasker. But how you doing today? How you doing this week?
Good. Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before we jumped on here, you know, it's a short week, which is always nice, but it's never less work. It's just 20% less time to get the same amount of stuff done, you know? And now we're coming into the busy season for just events. I mean, especially with our country station, you know, there's just so much stuff going on. Summerfest is coming up. I mean, we've got a couple other new featured events that are coming up with that station. So there's just so much stuff going on. It's like, how do we keep it all straight? I don't know, man. How are you doing?
Good. You got out fishing, too, this past weekend.
I did.
Finally. Got the kayak in the water and got to play with some of your new electronics.
Yeah, which was exciting. You know, I knew going into the weekend that coming into this week when we talked this week that I was going to say, I mean, I'm just looking at all of this stuff on the screen and I have no idea what any of it means. So we got to talk about that a little bit yesterday, which was fun. And then I just kept taking pictures of it and I figured I would just ask you questions about it when I saw you the next time. Like, okay, is this a fish or is this not a fish? And yeah, I mean, I think that the nice thing about it is you kind of get an idea of how deep you're fishing, obviously. I mean, that's just obviously just being able to see what's underneath you is just super nice.
Now,
I mean,
you've never had any kind of electronics on your kayak.
No.
And you've installed now this year the Garmin Striker 4, which is the small Garmin type unit. Now, I run the much larger Garmin, but you don't need to run something, especially in a kayak. You don't need to be running crazy side scan down.
Yeah.
It's something I wanted, but getting tournament fishing and stuff like that, wanted those features. Just even having what you have, I think that might be like the ultimate, just like every day, anyone that like is in a kayak and wants to do fishing unit. That Garmin Striker 4.
That's exactly what it's made for.
I mean,
you know,
at the end of the day, it gives you mapping, so you've got the ability to see where you are with lake maps. And that's great to be able to find offshore structure and stuff, which is something I've done without electronics on my boat using the Navionics app on my phone. But having a unit on your boat, I think it's more precise and better than just using an app and using your phone's GPS, as I can get turned around a bit. But then also having just generic sonar to be able to find differences in bottom structure, because it makes it easier to tell between what's a rock and what's, just something laying in the bottom, or between sand and silt, or, between rock and sand, just to get those transitions between different bottom lines. Now you're going to be able to see that. And that's where I think just having something like that Striker 4, anyone that is interested in fishing from either a kayak or just a small boat. I mean, you got a 12-foot John boat and want to take it out fishing. Just have that as a fish finder. I always hate using the word fish finder because they don't find fish. They help you read the what. But you know what I'm saying.
It doesn't just give you a beacon directly to where all the fish are.
Right. Here's you to press go. Can you find me fish? I mean,
take my kayak to where the fish are, please.
I'm sure that's the next in technology that's coming to electronics. It's got to be. Eventually they're just going to be like, we can scan the entire lake and find the fish and just autopilot it right to something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but it was nice though. When I first got out, I wasn't really sure what to expect, so I just kind of launched, and I was just kind of reading, just looking at what was up on the screen. Initially, I was not getting a depth reading, so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on here. So then I went into the settings, and I made sure that everything was installed, everything was plugged in, and everything was mounted the way that I wanted it to. But of course, until you get actually on the water, you don't know if it's going to be working right or not.
Right.
I mean, that's just a chance you have to take. And then if it's not, then you got to get out and you got to look at it and see what's going on. So I think mine, I actually had to Google which transducer came with the actual setup that I have. Because when I went into the settings, you can select, I think, 4 or 5 different transducer options. So that's nice because that tells me that I can go to one of the other ones as well. Maybe there's more advanced ones or higher frequency or whatever that might be. I went into that and I thought, well, I think it's just like the Chirp 200 hertz. So I guess I'm going to just select that one. But then I was thinking, well, that's what it's on. Why isn't it reading it reading anything. So then I just toggled down to one of the other ones. And when I selected it, it said, if this is not the correct transducer, you may damage your unit. And I'm thinking, all right, well, I guess I have to Google which transducer I actually have, because I'm not going to ruin this thing 5 minutes into my first trip with this.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but then when I actually just went back to the original, like the Chirp 200 hertz, everything started working right away. So I don't know if I just had to actually select it for the first time and now it'll remember it, or if that's something I'll have to go into every time. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember if Garmin, if you have to go in and select what transducer you have in order for it to know what transducer to read. I'm trying to remember that process. It just all in a blur so quickly on me. But yeah, that could be it. I mean, I know there's the initial setup of everything, so maybe that was with it. But I've never used the Striker 4, so I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to give an answer or say something with someone else that, may get it and not be correct with things. But I got out as well, and I did the great debate of where I go and struggled, and finally just picked on a lake, and I rode my first skunk of the season. However, was it a skunk because I had 2 muskie follows? I wasn't muskie fishing. I was bass fishing, but I did get 2 muskies follow to the boat. Neither would take the figure 8. I think they were just chasing in curiosity. I mean, they were both 30 to 34, in that range. They were, small muskies, but they were chasing after a chatterbait.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were just chasing it out of curiosity of like, oh, what is that? And then when they got to the boat, and they're like, nah, I'm out of here, and they'd kind of pedal out on me.
Right.
But trying to figure out where the fish are, and anyone that, has been out bass fishing in and around the southern part of the state, I think last weekend, based on what I found, and our buddy John Resnick, he was also out bass fishing, it really seemed that last weekend was that lockdown, spawning, we're not doing anything, we're not interested in anything time. Because I did find a bunch of bass that were up, there's a river that connected the lake that I was on, and they were just locked in. They were not interested in anything to do with baits. I mean, and I'm throwing at them and trying to irritate them. They're just not interested in anything. They were just kind of locked down, and I was seeing both males and females. It told me that the spawn is definitely on, or they were just, starting to protect fry or whatever. But yeah, I think last weekend was that weekend. So hopefully fishing will improve. They're going to start coming post spawn, which that came out of nowhere. When I was out a couple weeks ago, I thought everything would still be pre-spawn.
Sure.
And to then this quickly turn it around. But look at the calendar. We're into July, or June already.
June now, yeah.
I'm jumping ahead of July. I mean, it's like, holy cow, I guess spring has gone, but we kind of had that dragging on winter. Water temperatures were kind of cold.
It's been really weird because we've had a couple of those days where it's 90 degrees or high 80s, and the smaller bodies of water have been able to warm up, but then they've cooled off again because we've gotten down into those 40 or 50, degree nights where it does really cool off. The water temperature's just all over the place. So that probably is throwing things for a little bit of a loop. It's not like a consistent rise. We've had some very drastic changes.
Did you take note of the water temperature when you were out the other day?
Well, so mine, I don't know how accurate mine will be because my transducer's in the hull of my kayak, so it's reading through the kayak. But it said 68 or 69, but it was also 90 degrees or whatever on Sunday or on Monday when we went out. So it might have been misleading. Oh. So I'm not sure how accurate mine will ever be just because it's not actually in the water.
That would make sense. Yeah, actually, I just pulled up a picture you sent me of it here, and it must have been you must have taken this picture immediately after you took it off your vehicle and put it in the water, because it's showing 79.04.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah, so it started off super high, and then it went down from there, and I think it leveled out in the high 60s. So it was 68, 69, somewhere in that range.
Sounds about
right.
But
that must have been what it was.
I had 68 a couple weeks ago when I was out that first time.
Okay.
And I caught I caught the bass, but I loaded up on those crappies. It was 68, which I thought was really warm. But again, that was a much smaller lake. Now on a much bigger lake that I was this past weekend, I was 60 to 61.
Oh, wow.
I mean, drastically different water temperature. And it was a much bigger lake. The wind was blowing, so the water was, definitely swirling around, and it was, pushing cold water around. But yeah, it's just been nice to get out, be on the water. I don't know if your experience with a holiday weekend being on the water is the same as mine, but I always just have to roll my eyes at times with some encourage everyone to get out, enjoy the lakes, enjoy your boats, enjoy all that. Like, I'm not trying to be that person, but, you know, I was in conversation with another gentleman that was at the ramp that I was at trying to get out, and it's always the comedy show of, you know, you can tell those that boat a lot and those that never boat.
That are holiday boaters.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the, you know, having conversations. I talked to Archbishop Listecki here, Milwaukee Archdiocese, and first is the Creasters. Yes. You know, the Christmas and Easter's only. Yes. So you've got your Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of Julyers. Yes. You know, that's in the boating world of things. But I encourage you, get out more. Get out on your boat more. Do those things. Enjoy being outside more.
Just practice launching your boat more often. That's all we're asking.
Or if your boat doesn't, I've got to tell this story real quickly, and we'll circle back around and get into some stuff actually for the show this week, talking about baits and some different things we've noticed with deer in and around the area. But if you launch your boat and you get into the water and the motor doesn't start, please take said boat, put it back on the trailer, and call it a day. I just don't think it's a wise decision.
It's not a good start to the day.
So I'll tell the tale of how this all got to be. I'm headed back in last Sunday. I packed it up early. I intended to give myself to like noon. By about 10:45, I was like, I'm pulling the plug. I'm out of here. Wind was picking up even more. It was getting rougher. You know, I knew the conditions were tough. I was having a hard time. I mean, I was pushing 5 nautical miles I've put, you know, on my kayak. I covered a lot. To say, like, I was out fishing and I rode the skunk, it's not for, like, I went out and sat in one spot and, I just didn't catch fish. Like, I put the work in. I covered
some distance,
a lot of water looking for fish and trying to figure things out. So, like, I did the work. I realized it wasn't happening. It wasn't my day. So I'm going to pack it in. Well, so I'm heading back in. I got to go up a river to get to the launch that I'm at. If you're in southeastern Wisconsin, you might be able to figure out what lake it is. That's great. No big deal. So I pull off to the side in like a little cut that's in this river because there's another guy coming behind me with like a flat bottom, like metal John boat, you know, with a big mud motor on it. He was out muskie fishing. I had some stuff I wanted to do and rearrange and whatever. And I thought I'll just get out of his way. I'll tuck away for a second. And I was out of the wind finally. So I'm like, oh, this kind of feels nice.
Yeah.
And he gets past me and I'm putzing around doing some different stuff. I was actually filming a couple of things while I was out there. And I decided to get going and come up the river. Well, that's when I start seeing more of these bass laying around, and I'm, let's flip at that one. You know, kind of just not like being super intentional, but while I'm going, like I'll stand, take a look, and you know, I was taking my time coming back. When I get around one bend of the river, and there's this lady that's standing in the water pulling a 27-foot like jet boat, like a big like a big cruiser jet boat, like something you'd see like out in Lake Michigan. She's pulling it, and there's like 4 people standing up at the boat, and I made the joke at him and was like, oh, everybody out, needs some weight off the bow. You know, and they kind of like just, you know, whatever, and kept pulling this boat by. And I thought, okay, well, is it because the boat's so big, this river's not that deep? So, you know, drafting, they were worried about it to just pull it instead of trying to motor through. So I finally get back up to the ramp, and I see this guy that I let pass me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you're still sitting here. He goes, yep, and he kind of like nudges up at the ramp and to, you know, see the circus going. I'm like, oh, yeah, holiday weekend figure. He goes, hey, by the way, was that lady still pulling that boat up the river? And I was like,
oh, my God.
What's up with that? And that's what he told me. He goes, yeah, she put it in, and I guess she couldn't get it started, tried to hook us out, couldn't get it done. So she decided she was just pulling it out to the lake. And I'm like, does she know how windy and rough it's getting out there? Like, that just safety-wise doesn't seem smart.
Yeah, and just on the hope and prayer that somebody's going to tow you back in, or even less of a chance that it's just going to miraculously start.
Right. Because, I mean, like, what if you get out there and you anchor up just outside of the mouth of the river and something happens, anchor line breaks, where like anything can happen.
Right.
And now your boat's adrift. Where are you going? You're not, like, I was just like, whoa, not a safe and smart decision. I am so glad I'm getting off of here. So,
not good.
I wanted to, like, put a dog ear in that to be like, I want to talk about that, but until, just as like a friendly reminder that, I mean, safety, water and wind are something not to be messed with. And, you know, to think, oh, yeah, well, I can just walk out. It's shallow and I can anchor down. What if? You know, you always, it's the same reason you keep oars on your motorboat. You know, what if I have to, at least you have oars. You know, you have to have it to get around. Like, yes, my kayak is a pedal drive. I still bring my paddle with me. I'm going to use it for some maneuvering sometimes if I have to. But still, if something happens to your pedal drive, which actually one time I did have an issue where my shaft actually sheared and broke, I had my paddle to paddle myself back to the launch.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily my manufacturer took care of it. It was warranted, whatever. Sometimes things happen. It is what it is. But that's just it. You never know when something could happen. Don't take the risk at it.
Yeah.
So there's the PSA for boat safety. And wear your PFD. Always wear your PFD. You know, I noticed a lot of those people all on that boat, no one was wearing one. Yes, I get they were being towed, pulled, but still, like, anytime the boat's moving, PFD should be on.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you're in a smaller vessel, kayak, a 12-foot John boat, always wear a PFD. It doesn't take much, especially now with the inflatables. I wear the small one. You pull tab and do it. They even make them now that once they get wet, they auto inflate.
Oh wow,
which
that can be dangerous.
Right. There's, I've heard the argument on that one on like some different kayak boards and stuff. People are like, oh well, what if something happens, you get flipped over and you hit your head and you get knocked out and you can't inflate your PFD because you were knocked out. That's where having the wet one. Like, but I could see myself like wanting to jump in at some point in time or whatever. You don't think about it. Like my wife on a stand-up paddleboard. She's a stand-up paddleboarding. I talked to her about this. She goes, yeah, but I like to jump in the water. I don't want to have to worry about jumping in the water and having my PFD go off
a little bit. Yeah.
She wears one of the belt style ones that's real small. And I'm looking at hers now. I'm going, actually, that's kind of slick. I maybe might want to switch to one of those instead of the full. Like mine wearing over is not heavy. But yeah, it's almost like a little fanny pack.
Okay.
And same thing. It's got a little pull tab on it, and you pull it, and it puffs out this little vest, like pops up out of it that comes over your head, and it's a float.
Oh, weird.
It's really slick.
Here I was thinking that it would just like inflate around your waist and you'd look like a Texas rig out there in the middle of the water.
Oh, no. All right, that's great. We got to take a break. More tailgate talk coming up next. So the latest CDC guidelines recommend gathering outdoors. What a better way to enjoy time outside than archery? Whether it's practice for bow hunting or just shooting for fun, go see my friend Kaz and his knowledgeable team at Buck Rub Archery in Pewaukee. I got my bow there, I shoot there. In fact, my wife's even gotten into archery with me, and she's just as excited to have a new thing we can do together. Buck Rub Archery is your locally owned and operated one-stop shop designed for archers, where you can test any bow in stock before you buy, and they won't be undersold on any bow or crossbow. Plus, all come with full warranty and the personal touch service you'll only get at Buck Rub Archery. Stop in and see what I'm talking about off I-94 on Silvernail Road, or look them up at buckrubarchery.com. Hey, it's Ritter. You looking to get away this summer? How about a fishing-focused vacation with my friends at Ballard's Black Island on Ontario's Lake of the Woods? Right now, they have a handful of select dates for the summer, and they're offering a 2-for-1 special based on single angler rates. That's right. Access to multi-species trophy fishing is open in Canada. Walleye, smallmouth, northern pike, and muskie. I'm telling you, fishing is going to be epic in 2022. Go to blackisland.com and click on their summer fishing special. That's blackisland.com, summer fishing special, and get ready to set the hook. All right, welcome back to Tailgate Talk. It's brought to you by friends at Buck Rub Outfitters. You can check them out at buckrubarchery.com or get it out there just off of Silvernail Road in Pewaukee. It's never too early to get ready for bow season. Turkey season just wrapped up, and a lot of people out hunting turkeys with bows like myself, which I did not turkey hunt this year. Congrats to our boy Wags, got his turkey. Wags not with us this week, busy with the Lake Country Dock Hounds and the whole baseball thing. Best luck to them as they continue on with their season. By the way, you want to follow us on socials. It is at On the Tailgate. I'm at The Real Ritter, at Wisco Bow Hunting for Eric Tasker. And we're going to talk about, we've already talked a lot about fishing to start the show, but we're going to kind of talk more fishing this week about baits, seeing kind of the debates of soft, hard, live bait, things like that. We'll get into that, maybe some technique-specific things and baits and different questions I've got for you, Tasker. But you had made an observation recently with whitetail deer that you're wondering something about.
Yeah, so I'm in Hartford, so for me to drive to and from the office, I do a lot of freeway miles, which is, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of driving, but it's also very convenient just to have, the freeway to be back and forth.
It's relaxed time. It's podcast time. It's it's coffee time, whatever it would be.
I have noticed specifically from probably like the Germantown or the Menominee Falls north up to 60 or up to K, where Freedom RV is or whatever it's called now. There's a ton of dead deer out there. And it's not just like a couple, 2 or 3. I'm seeing even just going southbound, I think I counted 7. And going northbound, there's an additional 3 or 4. So we're talking about 10 deer at minimum over the course of miles maybe. So I'm seeing a lot of deer, and it's, right now all the fawns are dropping. So that's a big, there's a lot of movement with deer right now. But is that a sign of what's to come for the upcoming deer season? Is that telling us that we have a really high deer density in the Washington County area? Is it a sign of something that's spreading farther across the entire state? And my initial reaction, my normal first impression of that is yes, because it seems like a significantly higher number of deer that I'm seeing on the side of the road, and we're not even at the end of summer yet.
I've noticed that too last week, and I made the same observation of seeing what I thought was a lot of, I think I encountered like 3 deer on the side of the road, and I'm going from Milwaukee to Waukesha County. I was in Waukesha County last weekend, so like it wasn't like I was going super far. It wasn't going north, but yeah, I think it was 3 that I counted. Roadkills on the side of the road, and I don't know. The theory makes sense when you say if you're noticing more of them now earlier, that it could be a higher density. They've got to move around to get to other things, to get to food, to get to water, so they're moving around more. The more of them that they are taking up one specific area, others are going to try and move to find other areas. So, that is a really interesting take, an interesting thought of whether that correlates to something later in the year or just generally how a population's doing.
Yeah, and one of the things that as I was noticing all of them, I kept thinking to myself, it's not like we just got rid of snow, so it's not like they're just hit from the winter and that they are finally uncovered from the snow, because that's not the case. But I will say that I believe there were 1 or possibly 2 that don't have the super inflated bodies. So like one of them is pretty flat and deflated. Looks like it's been there for a while. But the remainder of them are all like super bloated, just from being in the heat and all that. And the gases that are building up and all of that are in the deer. But I also, and it's not like I am just noticing them this year because, you and I talk about deer hunting throughout the year, or that I'm much more conscious of it, because I've been a big fan of deer hunting for a number of years now. So it's not like it's just the first time that I'm actually paying more attention to it.
Right.
It's more that I just think that they're more present. It's an odd thing, and it's something I've been thinking about for the last week or so, that it's an unusual amount, and it makes me feel like there's something going on there.
The other token that I'll throw into this pot is think about the area we are and where you're noticing it. We're in the southern part of the state, especially the southeastern part of the state, which is more urban than like the northern part of the state. So is it exactly that? Of that, again, it's the densities are a little more, and you're just seeing more roadkills because we have more people, we have more traffic, we have more of that in this part of the state. Whereas up north, you don't have as much traffic, so to speak. So you might not notice as much of roadkills, and you're not going to have as many accidents up there as opposed to here right now. I mean, I don't know, I'm just spitballing a thought on that.
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do also with the urban atmosphere of this particular part of the state versus other parts of the state, which are far more rural. From the southwestern up to the northern, even northeastern Wisconsin, it's far more rural of area, or more of the area is rural compared to urban.
Sure.
The southwestern corner, we're kind of punching. I mean, think of all the 5 corner, counties here between Washington, Waukesha, Milwaukee, Ozaukee. There's more of an urban population within those counties. Yeah,
I would say that traffic-wise, I totally agree with that. There's just the population density is just so much higher down here. What I will say I think is also very different up north is that people are driving much less on the major byways, and they're on more of the like
county roads
and like the highways, or not highways, but like the side, like not interstates, but like the back roads in whatever capacity. But they may have less population up there, but I feel like deer are much more comfortable walking on roads up there because it's not as populated and it's not as heavily trafficked. So both sides of the coin on that. So, but I looked actually, and it says there's this doesn't even look like a legitimate website. It's kind of like odd because it's a dnr.wi.gov, but the way that this looks is like I don't know, like something you would have seen in like elementary school.
It's on the internet. It must be true.
It must be true, but it's the dnr.wi.gov website, so I'm assuming that it's legit. It's a post-hunt deer population estimates, which doesn't even read very well. But at the end of the 2021 season, they were estimating somewhere in the 1.5 million deer. And with 95% confidence, they're somewhere in the 1.5 to 1.6 million for an estimate, which is the highest that it's ever been. I mean, you even just look back to even 10 years ago, we were at like 1.1, 1.2 million deer. So we have almost 50% more if you believe these statistics. That's a big, big difference.
It is. That is a much bigger difference. And I mean, what? General kills were down this past season too,
8 to 9%.
We looked at that previously, right after the hunt. We kind of did a recap, which that episode is up on the podcast channels. You can search it out and go back to that anytime. Yeah, I hope it correlates to more deer come the fall. I would like to have an easier time to make a harvest finally this year. Now that I will take the words and advice of our friends from Okayest Hunter and never pass.
Yeah. Just get out there and make it happen. You get plenty of doe tags in Washington County. So.
I watched so many deer walk past and watched so many walk past and passed on this and passed on that. And then it got to be crunch time, and then I just couldn't make it happen. So I can't do that. No passing this year.
Yeah. Yeah. The only time that I truly prefer to pass is if it's a fawn with a doe. That's like my only time that I don't shoot. There's just something about that I just can't do it.
I understand.
Yeah.
I have the spike buck thing. I have a hard time with a buck that's, even a fork. I have a hard time with anything less than that, like 5, 6.
Yeah, I mean, I've shot a nub before that I thought was a small doe, and it actually ended up having man parts. So
keep thinking back to the ugliest rack I've ever seen in that one last year was like one big tall spike that like came up and like hooked around like it was a full like,
I know.
And then the other side is like the tiniest little like nubby thing. It was like the weirdest looking rack I've ever seen, and I was like, I can't. It's too weird. I can't do it. It's just too weird. I need to give it to next year. Like, see, I just, not that I'm
Isn't
like
that.
Isn't that
the cool part of it, though? And wouldn't it be something to have a really, really interesting mount like that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll pass on that.
I mean, I would for sure rather have like a nice traditional rack, but
I'm not a trophy guy. Like, we've talked about that. Last year was my first year, like, really dedicated into bow hunting and really dedicated into hunting whitetail. And typically in the falls, previously I would be either fishing or I would be out waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
And I've kind of stopped the waterfowl hunting thing because bow hunting, I've kind of gotten into that. It's great. And I like to fish longer into the fall now, especially last year. We had such a warm fall. I mean, I was still fishing in through October.
Yeah.
I think I got out in the tree and into the woods once in the month of October, and then I didn't go back until November. Like when we took the rutcation thing. Like it was like early October, like sometime during that first week after it opened, I went out.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get out in the woods again until, basically the first week in November.
Right.
Because I was still fishing. I was like, I can get on the water. The water temps were warm and it was nice and fishing was good. And I still like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And that's something, I know we've been kind of talking about that behind the scenes when we get Wags back in studios, just talking about planning out our seasons and stuff. It's something that I have a lot of questions about because I typically overthink things, but it'll be exciting to start talking about that. It's crazy because, who would have thought? We're here in June already.
I know.
And our buddy Vince actually sent me a message or tagged me on Instagram. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And he's like, "Is it too soon to start shooting?"
Oh,
and
he's got
his bow with the target out.
The target he had looked really familiar. Like I know someone else that has that exact same target in their yard.
Yeah.
This guy. Yeah. Now that made me think of like, it's time to get on. My wife's been on me too, and she wants to go out and shoot.
Man.
The problem is every day that she wants to go shoot is a Sunday, and she wants to go to Buck Rub and shoot their 3D course outside, and they're closed on Sundays. So it's like every time she wants to shoot, it's on Sundays. So, but. Soon.
That's usually my routine, though, as we start to... Well, I'll start shooting on a more regular basis, especially now that we're in June. But I typically will cut the grass on Sunday, and then I'll go shoot for like an hour and a half at Land and Quarry. I mean, it's just it's nice just to get out there, and it's nice to have the distance so you can shoot at up to 100 yards. And if nobody's there, you can shoot on angles too, which is super nice because that is more likely the case of when you're gonna
100-yard shot. I can't imagine how I'm basically pointing at the sun at that point.
Yeah, you might be, but until you go out west, you don't have to worry about that.
That's true. That's true. All right. Our friends at Ballards, Black Island, we are headed up there to do some fishing coming up in August of this year. And they've still got a couple of select dates open, a huge summer sales. They're trying to kind of fill some spots on the island. You can check them out at blackisland.com. They're doing 2 for 1. Like buy one, get one. It's like the ultimate double bubble when it comes to Canadian fishing. And it's not like a full week. Like you can choose 3-day, 4-day, or 7-day, all-inclusive packages. So all you got to do is get up to Morrison, Ontario, Canada. They pick you up on the boat. They take you to the island. Once you're there, everything is taken care of. Boats, motors, baits, beverages, non-alcoholic, of course. You bring that on your own. But then food, and it's like the meals, you will not go hungry. It's pretty epic cooking. They do an awesome job with their Ballards. You saw a picture this week, though. Our friend Gary, who runs it up there, they actually had to close this week and next week because of extreme flooding.
It's crazy.
And I'm looking at pictures.
That water was insane.
I mean, that one picture that Gary's got up of a cabin in the water close to the cabin, that's a cabin that I've stayed in majority of times I've been up there. That cabin is like the furthest from water. Like that cabin is on, they have like actually like a little beach area. So if you actually want to swim like in sand beach, they've got a sand like beach there in the little harbor they've got on the island. And that cabin is one that's like directly in front of that. And it's a long ways to the water.
Yeah.
So the fact that the water is almost up to the porch on that's incredibly high water. It's got to be 4 or 5 feet higher than normal. It's just absolute insanity to me to see those pictures. So hopefully that water recedes soon.
After everything they've gone through the last 2 years,
that's
and
just
now here they're worried about flooding and all of that.
I mean, it's the same for all the people up there. Again, we keep talking about all of the outfitters. I mean, there's a ton on Lake of the Woods, all over the lake. They're all dealing with the same thing.
All right, so what kind of drinks are we going to bring up there?
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know,
got some time, but
rules for carrying into Canada is you can bring 1 liter of liquor, or 1 case of beer. Yeah, per person. So 1 liter of liquor or 24, a case of beer. Anything you bring over, you have to pay the Canadian taxes for your overage. Much like if you bring something back to the United States, like you're allowed 2 liters back in the United States. If you bring 3, you got to pay the tax on the third one. I've always slightly overed. And luckily, if there's real wood somewhere here, I've never had to pay the over. Because if you I'd bring like a 750 of bourbon, and then like a 12-pack of beer or something.
Okay.
But so then they look at it, and they'd have to. I think they've went to figure the math of the tax because it's 750 versus the liter, and then how much is the tax on the ounces of beer? I think they are just like. It'd be a couple dollars. It's not even worth doing them. Like it'd take longer to figure out the math of what I would owe in tax. They're just like, you're good.
You're fine.
But I think ultimately it's always just be completely honest with them when they check you and they're like, oh, what are you bringing in? Say, bop, 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 bop. Tell them exactly what you're bringing. Don't just be like, oh, I've got some beer and a little liquor. Like then they're going to go through. I've heard tales of some guys that have been on this trip that have got up there like, oh, they counted each individual beer can.
Yeah.
Well, it's like also don't just throw the cans in a cooler. Have them in, just bring your actual cases. Like, bring your beer in a case. You can get ice and everything from Ballards, and they've got refrigerators and everything in all of the cabins. And
so you can load up.
So, I mean, you have
to cross the border and buy stuff at a gas station or something, I'm assuming, right?
You can, but the caveat I'll throw into there is when you do, if you were to be taking a trip like we are, if you ever go to Canada to fish like that, I would always say bring your allotment in because it's way cheaper. Even if you have to pay the tax when you get there, it's still cheaper than paying there. Your 24 case of Miller Lite you would buy here in Wisconsin, we'll round up and say it's $20.
Yeah.
It's not, but I'm just going to use a flat number. It's going to be $60 in Canada.
$60?
A case of beer is over $50. I'm just saying, I'm using the thing like round up, but it's all the tax on it. Remember, in Canada, they don't pay health care and things like that. They pay extra tax on alcohol, tobacco. See? Now you're going, what? Yeah. Beer in Canada. Shannon, who's with our country station by the show, her husband found that out when he bought a bunch of went to Canada to buy Canadian beer.
Yeah,
and he said something to his wife. So it's Adam is Shannon's husband. Adam was up in Canada because he works for the Milwaukee Admirals and travels, and they do stuff in Canada. He had spent a bunch of beer, and she's like, "How much beer did you get?" And he's like, "Oh, just a couple of cases." But it was like you'd have thought he'd bought half a brewery.
Yeah.
Just based on the price.
It's $400
right.
for
It's not like me going to
cases of beer.
New Orleans and coming back with 6 cases of beer. It's a little different.
Yeah.
So, my recommendation would be if you ever do take a trip to Canada like that and you're bringing your own alcohol, if they have soda, water, milk, juices, they have all that there.
Yeah.
So, don't worry. Like a place like Ballard's, they have all that at the resort. It's all inclusive, just your liquor and your beer you would bring on your own. Every time we've ever done the trip, the last night, it's always like everyone's doing the cooler clean outs. So it's like all these bottles of liquor and beer. It's like everyone's just throwing on the tables in the main lodge. And it's like empty everything. No one's taking anything back. So that last night is always the kind of the last party night, the clean house thing. So,
all right. Sorry, I got distracted.
We did. We'll talk about and figure what we're bringing later. We got to get into this because you brought up a kind of interesting thought and topic idea about different baits. Soft baits versus hard baits versus live baits.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was thinking about this a lot over the weekend as I'm out there fishing, and I was fishing with, I ended up throwing a worm and bobber out while I was just waiting for my wife and my daughter to come from the channel that they kind of went down and exploring. I was just waiting for them at the bridge. So I just switched over to a worm and bobber at that point. But, I've always been of the mindset, I kind of know what to throw in some of the areas, or I know where worm and bobber will work really well. But where I get really nervous and where I feel super intimidated is soft plastics. And I say that because I think there's a lot of different techniques to it. And I think that there's not only are there different techniques, but there's also different rigging. But where I have explored into some of these reusable lures, I guess we'll say, to encompass both hard and soft plastics, is the Rapalas, or if it's the minnows or whatever it might be. And I typically will do the shad wraps. I've always loved the chartreuse ones. That's my go-to. I always catch fish on
chartreuse
them.
And white, the best 2 colors you can have of any bait.
They'll
catch any species anywhere in the world. If you like to pick one, chartreuse and white, you're good to go.
Yeah, and so I was throwing that initially. I was kind of amazed. I ended up catching a couple panfish on my little chartreuse shad wrap.
Oh.
And then I actually ended up switching because I was thinking, okay, I know that these fish are deeper than where I'm getting my lures to right now. I'm going to throw this diving minnow, which happened to be 4 or 5 inch, double treble hook. And it was getting down there. Well, and then I ended up catching this rock bass that I swear to God was the size of the lure. So I say all of that to say I think it can be super intimidating for us that we're all just kind of average people that, we're not professionals in any capacity. Talk to me about that, because I know you are a soft plastics guy and you're much more advanced in that than I am.
And that's what I love about this show is exactly right here in this moment of you like fishing, but you've never been a huge angler, and every person is at different levels and at different points of their outdoor journey.
Yeah.
I mentioned just earlier, me with whitetail hunting, I've never been a big deer hunter. I've dabbled, but never really gotten into it.
Yeah.
You and Wags, far more into it. Far more. It's just Wags, the advanced food plots and all this stuff.
Right.
We all are. Every person is at different levels and different comforts of things. Even within baits, as you mentioned them, there's different schools and theories. Myself and John Resnick, we were talking about that actually last week as we were hanging out before the Eric Church show. He's much more of the jig flipping, slow finesse fishing type person.
Okay.
I'm much more of a power fisherman. I'm far more power. I'm moving baits. I'm swim jigs. I'm chatter baits. I'm throwing crankbait. I like moving baits. I like covering a lot of water. I like moving baits.
Okay.
I've done the finesse thing. I've caught a lot of fish, and for a long time when I was doing the co-angler type stuff, just flipping a shaky head. Just a simple shaky head and a black and blue or a red shad, just Senko on a shaky head and just finesse flipping that around stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's between that or like wacky rigging a Senko.
Yeah.
To me, the two
like
most,
me with that waistline floaty.
yeah, that's the most basic, easiest way I think to start using artificial baits and soft baits, using soft plastics, is Senkos or a stick bait.
Sure.
Every company now has its own version. Was Berkeley's the General?
Yes.
You got the MaxScent General. Actually, that I would probably recommend that for anything because of the MaxScent technology that comes with that bait too. Yum dingers, whatever.
Yeah.
Just take that, wacky rigged. That'll catch bass pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's such an easy, simple rig. It's a hook in a soft worm. Like some people do the O-ring. I don't bother. I just hook it right in the middle of the worm and just go with it. Like,
I guess I've never really understood that because it's just one additional thing instead of just putting it right through there. They think that the hook is going to stay in there better?
It helps conserve the bait a little more, usually.
Okay.
I mean, it can hold the hook better, but it also will conserve the bait. I mean, you could get, wacky rig, a bass could grab onto the bait and it just pulls in the bait instead of the hook, and then next thing it just rips the bait off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
It saves more baits by having it with the O-ring. I don't worry too much about that. I mean, again, like I say all the time with a lot of stuff, I'm not out fishing for $100,000 every weekend.
Right.
Like, I'm not in the elite series. So I'm not as concerned with things. But yeah, I'm far more the power fisherman. John could speak a lot to more of the finesse stuff of flipping jigs. I think I get bored by it. And I know that in what I do in getting into tournament fishing, I'm going to need to finesse fish more. But when I don't have to, I choose not to. I would just prefer. But I've also always thought that I've been able to find fish faster using finesse techniques. And then once I find them, then I'll step down and, I'll run a chatterbait through an area. And if I catch a couple in, a smaller area, now I can shrink down and I can come back through and I can pitch a jig through that same area.
Sure.
So the most aggressive would hit the chatterbait or the swim jig or the spinnerbait or whatever. But now those not as aggressive ones, I'm going to try and flip out and finesse those fish.
Right.
So that's kind of my mindset of how I utilize baits. I rarely live bait fish anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got like my son out, you've got kids out, always worms, whatever. And worms are going to catch any fish too, anywhere.
Pretty much.
Night crawlers, man. I went out last summer a few times with that. It's just fun to get back to the roots. Like, I was taking some night crawlers or slip bobber, or just float around and have some fun. And those are the days that I have a lot of fun because it's relaxing. Because you're not constantly worried about being on a specific spot or, working to this or having a plan. It's like just wing it and go.
Yeah.
Those are the days where I bring the Bluetooth speaker with and pump a little No Shoes radio and just hang out and enjoy the day while I'm doing a little bit of fishing and hopefully catch some panfish for the fryer.
So now you are also, I don't want to give away any secrets of yours. You are a combo guy where you have soft plastics and your rigs.
Oh, always trailers.
Yes.
I'm a big. I mean, every jig you got to have a trailer on it. I'm a big paddle tail, big believer in the X-Zone Swammer. What's one I'm using a lot lately? The Yum. What do they call them? It's like a basic. It's like a ribbed and a paddle tail. The reason I got into Yum is because I couldn't find the X-Zone ones at the time, and I bought these Yum ones one time because they were like $3.99 for a pack, and it's like 10 of them in there. It's dirt cheap.
Oh, super cheap.
Like, especially if you're in a spot where you're throwing colors that things like pike like to hit. One hit and they just shred they shred the crap out of it.
Yeah, because it's
cheap ones.
It's a thick body, a narrow kind of, I guess, butt. And then the tail is actually like the
tail,
thick, wobbles
causes all the vibration.
The vibration,
So I mean, look at when I mentioned a chatterbait. I'll throw that same paddle tail on a chatterbait. So I've got that the chatterbait, the actual blade on the jig doing all kinds of vibration.
Yeah.
Plus, then I've got the vibration of the tail. Like again, power fisherman. I'm looking to piss off the fish. I want to get one PO'd that he just hits.
Yeah.
Even if they're not hungry.
Because that's all that it is it's all reactive. It's very, very, it's much more common to I think, it's much more common to catch fish reactively than it is for you to just throw something out there and hope that they attack it. Because that's like worm fishing.
Like I mentioned, the muskies that I'd follow chatterbait when I was out fishing last weekend, just curiosity. I think they were irritated by something and curiosity. Well, the first one I can confirm, that fish was chasing some bait around.
Okay.
And my chatterbait was a little bit different than the rest of the baits he was chasing around. So again, curiosity. I'm sure that's why he followed and chased it. Yeah, that was a fun one. I'm, paddling along, kind of working to an area, and I'm always constantly watching basically my side imaging.
Okay.
But, on my graph, I run a map, my side imaging, and then I've got my clear view or down imaging on it. And I'm going by, and I kind of see like what looks like some bait, and then I look at my down imaging, and sure, I see what definitely was just a big bunch of bait. So I quickly flip my chatterbait back behind my kayak because, I know it's, transducer is always what you just went over.
Right.
Flip it back behind and come right through it, and that's where coming right, following from it. And here comes that muskie right at me.
See, and that's kind of the method that I used this past weekend too, knowing that whatever I was going over was going to be behind me. So I would go into the wind and I would kind of figure out where I think fish are. And then I would go a little bit beyond that so that I would eventually just be, I could fish to it and then I would be above it. Kind of, because I would be pushed back that way. I mean, did it work? I don't know. I mean, I caught a couple fish, but it wasn't like I was slamming them.
You caught more fish than I caught last week when I was out. I mentioned, Resnick before earlier. He caught a few too. He was on a different lake that was really close to where I was. But yeah, I didn't. Anyone that I follow or talk to didn't light it up on fire last weekend.
Yeah.
So I think the light it up on fire part of
could be coming.
Fishing is coming these next few weeks. I think things are going to start to return back to normal for bass fishing specifically. But then, bluegills are going to start spawning pretty quick here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a chance to get in some really good pan fishing. So it's getting fun. Summer's getting here. We're getting around. So what I'm gathering from the conversation, what you were saying, is your interest in fishing is growing. And you're dabbling into other techniques and things when it comes to fishing. Is there a certain bait technique, something you've seen of, you've heard of, that you want to master, that you want to become good at, that you want to learn more about? Whether it's cranking with crankbaits, flipping jigs, just generally using soft plastics.
Soft plastics for sure are the main thing that I'm interested in right now. No rhyme or reason behind it, I guess, other than I have fished the cranks, the shads, the minnows, all of those things. I've done that before, and I know that I can catch fish. Soft plastics, I think that it's a technique thing, it's a rigging thing, and it's I guess technique in the sense of how to fish them, speed of fishing them, and when to use them. So I have a number of questions about that, I guess, which I mean is whatever, but I think they work. I mean, I don't know because I've never done it.
I'm loving this conversation because it's a reminder of things that a lot of us that have been fishing all of our lives, we just kind of take for granted. We say all the time in the shows, we want to introduce more people to things in the outdoors, and we want to make it accessible and make it not seem intimidating. That's something with my YouTube channel that I'm all about, is making things seem accessible and not intimidating, because I've been there and I've sat back and thought of well, I'd like to do this, but what if I look stupid, and what if I don't look like I know what I'm doing?
I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're just not going to catch fish.
Right.
Which could happen at any point in time.
And that's where I don't want to say I love the bravery of it, but for you to just come here. You're on the show. We talk about outdoors all the time.
And I love to fish. I fish a lot.
To just say okay, you know what? I really don't know a lot about this. I want to know more. And that's awesome. And that's what I think all have to do with ourselves all the time to improve anything to be good, is just say, hey, I don't know about this. I want to learn more. And have that drive, that want to. That's cool, and I hope that we can continue to do that. And I hope that our show is that for people that listen, I guess, is that, hearing you say that if they have questions, to not feel stupid or not be afraid to ask something because, I don't want to look dumb. I'm not saying you look dumb, but
I'm dumb for sure.
It's like me with bow hunting. I try and study and read and figure things out, and I'm a sponge type person too, that I just absorb things.
And take things in.
And I absorb it very quickly and try and run with it. But there was a time I didn't know anything either. But I asked the questions, and I'd go back to my experience, and I draw a lot from being out there in those experiences.
Yeah.
Can learn so quickly. Once you get into the woods or get on the water and start seeing and figuring things out, it makes it easier to learn and figure things out.
Yeah.
I know we went on a weird, I don't know where I was going with that, but I thought it was one of those moments.
No.
But I thought it was cool because the outdoors should be accessible to everyone and should be something that everyone should enjoy. Even if you don't know how to properly launch a boat, you should still be able to get out on the water and enjoy it.
Just do it in the middle of the night or something when nobody else is around.
No, I joke about it, and I probably sound like that person when I say that, but
that's fine.
I know that there's a lot of people that it happens at every boat ramp, everywhere, every weekend, all the time, and there's always someone that's having that thought, and nobody launches a boat properly, and nobody does this properly. It's the world we live in that only the way I do things is the right way, and your way's wrong.
Right.
Anyway,
I asked that because last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how I'm a quantity fisherman. I think I'm bringing this up because I want to be a quality fisherman now. I don't want to catch 37 6-inch fish. I'd rather catch 2 really nice fish. And I think I'm making that transition as I'm taking on the electronics in the boat and that I'm just trying to get out on some of these other lakes. I realize you don't just constantly catch fish, but it's a matter of figuring out what to do, when to do it, and all of that.
You get better at fishing by spending more time in the water.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to tell you is I thought of you as I crossed through the middle of the lake last week because you said to me, so it's all fun and games until you're sitting over 50 feet of water and you never realize that it was that deep. I had that thought go through my mind as my fish finder went from 49 to 50 to 51 to 52 feet. I'm like, I guess I didn't know if I was going to panic or not because I'm not afraid of water by any means. I've swam a lot of open water in my life, so I'm not concerned about it. But I actually thought to myself, I guess I didn't really overthink it, but when I got to that point, it was either going to be oh my God, I'm over 50 feet of water here, or
imagine imagine seeing triple digits on that.
Yeah.
And the first digit does not start with a 1.
Yeah.
In a kayak, and you're over 300 some feet of water.
Yeah, not in a kayak, but yeah. So, yeah, those are my final thoughts.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there for this week. Thanks for joining us, Tailgate Talk. We'll be back next week. We'll delve more into this, and I know we got to get Vince and John back on. We're going to get into some more muskie stories because Vince has been hammering the muskies lately, so we're gonna pop into that. I don't remember if we talked about the debate of if a fish swallows a hook, is it better to try and remove it or cut it? I don't think we touched that, and I want to get to that next week.
Okay.
So we're going to get to that conversation and more. Again, follow us on socials, On the Tailgates. I'm at The Real Ritter, at Wisco Bow Hunting. Hopefully we got Wags back with us next week, too. I think his schedule's going to open up. So we'll look forward to that. Till then, we'll catch you in the next one.